I can't panic. I have to find a way to save myself. I gripped my baseball bat and frantically hammered on the iron door. The vibration made it impossible for the impact drill outside to lock onto the lock core. I thought I was safe for the moment, but then they suddenly stopped. The three of them gathered to confer. Then, they actually turned towards apartment 302 across the hall. A young girl lives in 302. If they break down her door, they'll have supplies and be living right across from me. I'll never have a moment's peace again. I immediately called 302 on WeChat. I could hear her crying on the other end. I saw everything from behind my door. Quick, barricade the door with furniture. Don't let them in, no matter what. I'll figure something out, but what could I do? I remembered the hot water I'd boiled last night. I rushed into the kitchen and grabbed the kettle. While they were focused on 302's door, I yanked open my iron door and threw the entire pot of boiling water on them from behind. Then I quickly slammed the door shut and locked it. In temperature 60 degrees below zero, the hallway had to be at least 40 or 50 below. Through the peephole, I watched the water instantly freeze into ice on their bodies. It froze on their faces, seeped into their clothes. To put it simply, they were done for. The three of them shivered violently from the cold. They no longer had the strength to use the drill. Instead, they tried to go back upstairs. I waited until they were halfway up the stairs. Then I opened the window in the hallway. A blast of cold air flooded the corridor. Liu Ryan, closest to the window, had lips that turned purple. She couldn't speak. Mao Bufun, who had climbed the farthest, started to beg for mercy. Ziyi, it was all their idea. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. You're not sorry you were wrong. You're just sorry you're about to die. Soon, there were 3 new ice sculptures next to the window. Not long after I returned home, there was a knock on the door. It was Zidai. She thanked me profusely. She also handed me a small bag. Inside were a few cookies. I shook my head and refused, telling her I had plenty of food. She should keep it for herself. But Zidai's expression grew dim. She said she wouldn't last much longer. She was about to freeze to death. My heart softened. I went back inside and got a box of heat packs for her. Who would have known, after taking the box? She carefully asked me if she could share some with the others. I was stunned. There were other people in this building. My past life's experiences had made me cold and selfish. I had almost forgotten my original, kind self. Yes, let's do it together. For the next few days, Zidai and I began to anonymously leave supplies for the neighbors in the building. Every day, we'd leave some food and heat packs at each doorstep. The next day, we'd check if the food had been taken. It turned out that besides us, there were 10 other households, more than 20 people, in the building. My supplies were enough to support the whole building for 2 years. I didn't know who they were. I just wanted, in this world, to use what I had to save some people. The extreme cold lasted for over half a month. Zidai and I became the closest of friends. What made us happiest was that everyone in the building survived. But trouble still came. During the first month of the freeze, a modified off-road vehicle parked outside our building. 2 people, bundled up tightly, got out. They looked like trouble. They went floor by floor, searching for supplies. Finally, they came to our building. I had no choice. My storage unit held a floor's worth of supplies. It was my entire fortune, and also the hope for the whole building. I covered myself in heat packs, grabbed my weapon and hot water, ready to douse them through the iron door, to fight them. The footsteps grew closer. I hid behind the door, took a deep breath, and prepared to fight for my life. However, something didn't seem right. Why were there more footsteps? I looked through the peephole. The bad guys had come up, but there were several people following them. It was the men and uncles from the neighborhood. Even the old grandfathers were there. Each one was holding a makeshift weapon. Their faces were grim, their eyes determined. The 2 groups were packed into the narrow hallway. The 2 burly outsiders saw all the people and were completely stunned. I had expected a fierce battle. but the neighbors let out a roar. "Outsiders, get out of our building." There was strength in our numbers. The two men hesitated for a moment and then actually scurried away. The neighbors didn't leave. The old man in the lead spoke up. "It's been you leaving the supplies, hasn't it? Thank you. If you ever need anything, just give a shout. We're all here." Zedai and I looked at each other. I never thought that in this cold, indifferent world, people's hearts could be so warm. The second month of the deep freeze, Z dies and my phones chimed at the same time. A notification popped up. The new Homeland project has been fully launched. Rescue teams are beginning rescue operations. We looked at each other, both seeing the delight in the other's eyes. The next day, we heard the sound of a car engine downstairs. The entire building was buzzing with excitement. Everyone crowded at the windows, waving and cheering at the people below. The rescue team members got out of the car. They looked up and saw our building was almost perfectly intact, and their faces showed surprise. The captain stepped forward. "For your building. The number of survivors and their condition is extremely rare for a residential building." I smiled, keeping my good deeds a secret. The captain continued, "The supplies in our vehicle are limited for now, so we can only offer a small amount. However, everyone please be sure to bring your own supplies and come back with us to the safe base. Once at the base, your supplies can be exchanged for points, which you can use to get daily necessities." An idea sparked in my mind. That's a great system. The rescue team began helping to move supplies. When it was my turn, I pointed to my storage unit. "It's all in there." I opened the door to the unit. In that moment, everyone was completely stunned. Their jaws dropped, as if they were seeing something unbelievable. The first floor of the unit was packed to the brim with supplies, food, drinks, essentials, you name it. It was better staffed than a large supermarket. The captain snapped out of his daze, swallowed hard, and said, This is unbelievable." I then asked a key question. "By the way, Captain, what's the value of heat packs at the base?" The captain answered immediately. "Heat packs are basically currency right now. In this extreme cold, they provide warmth and can thaw things. At critical moments, they can save lives, so they're extremely valuable." I smiled slightly and said one sentence. "The second floor is also full of heat packs, about 1 million of them. You can see how many points that's worth." Everyone was dumbfounded. The captain took a deep breath, his voice trembling slightly. "On behalf of all the survivors who will be using these supplies, I offer you our most sincere thanks." I stood where I was. I looked up at the sky. Perhaps the sun was really about to rise.